Greetings, fellow time travelers and ancient mystery hunters. Welcome back to SHistoria, where we unlock the most incredible secrets of lost civilizations and dive deep into archaeological discoveries that challenge everything we thought we knew about human history. I'm your archaeological guide, ready to take you on the most mind-bending journey we've ever attempted on this channel. Today's investigation will shake the foundations of ancient Egyptian history and reveal evidence of a cover-up that's been hidden for decades. Before we unveil these earth-shattering revelations, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Trust me, what we're about to discover will leave you questioning everything you learned about the ancient world. Picture this scene with me, the Giza Plateau, Egypt. At first glance, it appears to be just an open-air museum, scorched by a merciless sun, a place where the past has frozen in stone while the present bustles with cameras and water bottles. The air here is thick and heavy, filled with the buzzing of tourist buses, merchants' calls, and dust that's thousands of years old. But if you step away from this chaos, and truly observe and look deeply, you'll feel something else entirely. A suffocating, overwhelming silence that doesn't come from outside, but from deep within the earth itself. A faint humming that's not heard by the ear, but felt by the soul. Fellow explorers, the Giza Plateau isn't a museum, it's a crime scene. A crime against memory itself, where the victim is the true history of humanity. The witnesses are made of limestone, and the investigation has been ongoing for thousands of years. At the heart of this investigation stand three massive pyramids, precise geometric structures pointing skyward with mathematical accuracy that still baffles modern engineers. But the main witness, the one who has seen everything, lies at their feet, facing east toward the point where the sun rises on the spring equinox. Its body is that of a lion, symbol of primal power. Its head is that of a man, symbol of intellect. But time has erased its face, and perhaps not time alone. Its gaze is empty, yet it seems to see not just through space, but through time itself. The Great Sphinx of Giza. The official history, the narrative you'll hear in any university and read in any textbook, is simple, elegant, and logical. This colossal statue, the largest in the world, was carved from a single rock during the 4th dynasty of the Old Kingdom, around 2558 to 2532 before Christ. It's believed that Pharaoh Khafre, or Chephren in Greek, ordered its construction. He was the builder of the second largest pyramid. Its face, we're assured, represents this pharaonic god. Its function is clear as daylight, guardian of the necropolis, spiritual protector of the city of the dead. This narrative is convenient. It fits the Sphinx perfectly into the accepted chronology, making it an understandable and interpretable artifact. It becomes part of humanity's gradual evolution from primitive tribes to the great civilization of the pharaohs. But here's the problem with this neat little story. It's like an ill-fitting lid on a coffin. There are too many gaps, too many contradictions, too many disturbing facts that must be ignored or dismissed as unimportant. What if this tidy theory wasn't the result of scientific discovery, but the result of a conscious decision? A decision to simplify, to fit the answer, and perhaps to hide something so fundamental that revealing it would threaten to bring down the entire edifice of modern history. The investigation into this mystery begins with a simple question, one that no one has dared ask aloud in the halls of the Cairo Museum for decades, but which has been whispered among independent researchers, geologists, and engineers. What is the Great Sphinx hiding, not on its surface but in its depths, in the massive bedrock upon which its enormous time-weathered pores rest? Any attempt to obtain official permission for serious scientific research into this matter, whether for drilling, excavation, or using modern geophysical equipment, has always hit an impenetrable wall. For decades, this wall was embodied by one man, Dr. Zahi Hawass, former head of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, a powerful media figure who never appeared without his Indiana Jones hat. For decades, he was the chief guardian of official doctrine. With unwavering confidence, he would repeat the mantra, "There are no secret chambers beneath the Sphinx. These are delusions." Any attempt to drill would be a crime that would destroy Egypt's greatest heritage. But why? Why this aggressive, almost panicked response to simple scientific curiosity? Archaeologists around the world constantly excavate at the base of ancient structures. Why here, at the most mysterious place on this planet, is science compared to vandalism? To understand what they feared discovering, we must travel back to the first half of the 20th century to a man who was neither an archaeologist nor a historian. His name was Edgar Cayce, a modest photographer from Kentucky. But the world knew him by another name, the Sleeping Prophet. Cayce possessed an astounding ability. By entering a deep trance state, he could access information that seemed impossible to reach under normal circumstances. He performed thousands of precise medical diagnoses for people he had never met, predicted the beginning and end of world wars, and foresaw the stock market crash of 1929. To skeptics, he was a master at deceiving millions of followers. To believers, he was a man who touched the universal source of knowledge, what he called the Akashic records. One day, during one of his readings in the 1930s, he began speaking about Egypt. What he said didn't align with any historical framework known at the time. Cayce claimed that long before pharaonic civilization, in an age we can barely imagine, around 10,500 before Christ, there existed on Earth a highly advanced civilization that we know from legends as Atlantis. According to him, the Atlanteans possessed knowledge and technology that surpassed our own. They understood the laws of physics at a level that allowed them to control gravity, use crystal energy to generate light and power, and travel in flying machines. They also mastered genetic engineering and knew the secrets of longevity. Anticipating a global catastrophe and a shift in the planet's axis that would destroy their continent, the Atlanteans took steps to preserve their knowledge for future generations, for those who would survive the coming dark age. 3 main repositories were created, 3 halls of records around the world. One, according to Cayce, was located on a sunken continent in the Bimini area, lying along the ocean floor. The second, in Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, in Maya lands. The third, and most important and complete, was built in Egypt. Cayce pinpointed its location in the bedrock beneath the right front paw of the Great Sphinx. He described the hall as a library built using immortal technology. He said there were no perishable papyri inside, but eternal information carriers, engraved metal tablets and crystals capable of storing images and sounds. It contains complete records of human history, spanning hundreds of thousands of years, scientific treatises describing forgotten technologies, and most importantly, the spiritual laws that connect humanity to the universe. Cayce prophesied that this hall would be opened at the end of the 20th century, between 1996 and 1998. This opening would mark the beginning of a new era for humanity, an age of awakening, enlightenment, and mysticism. For half a century, Cayce's words remained the property of esoteric scholars. But in the 1980s, something happened that made people take them with terrifying seriousness. And it didn't begin with mysticism, but with pure science, with geology. Independent researcher, writer and mathematician John Anthony West, who dedicated his life to studying Egyptian civilization, drew attention to a detail that thousands of Egyptologists had seen without realizing its significance: the erosion of the Sphinx. Official theories stated that this monument, carved from relatively soft limestone, had been damaged by wind and desert sand. This is called wind erosion. It leaves distinctive marks, horizontal grooves, weathered layers at the base, and sharp angles cut by the wind. But West, after studying the Sphinx and, most importantly, the walls of the enclosure from which it was carved, saw a completely different picture. Deep vertical grooves extending from top to bottom, rounded, integrated shapes, as if the stone had been eroded by water for centuries. This was classic water erosion, traces left not by sandstorms, but by heavy, prolonged rainfall. To ensure his theory wouldn't remain just a hypothesis, West made a brilliant move. He approached a man whose scientific authority was beyond reproach. He invited Dr. Robert Schoch, professor of geology at Boston University and expert in rock weathering, to Egypt. Schoch had no connection to alternative history and was, initially skeptical of West's idea. He came to Giza as a specialist to either refute or confirm this hypothesis based on precise scientific data. He took samples, analysed them, and compared the weathering features of the Sphinx with other structures on the plateau whose dating was clear and unambiguous, like Old Kingdom tombs carved from the same limestone. His verdict, announced at the annual conference of the American Geological Society, really shocked academic circles. Schock's conclusions were clear and unambiguous. The erosion pattern on the Sphinx's body, especially on the walls of the surrounding trench, was the inevitable result of long-term exposure to rain, not wind and sand, but heavy rainfall. But here lies the scientific bombshell. The Giza Plateau's climate became as dry as it is today, thousands of years before Pharaoh Khafre's reign. The last extended period of heavy rainfall in this region, called the Neolithic subpluvial period, ended no later than 4000 or 3000 before Christ. To leave such deep scars on limestone required centuries, if not thousands of years of heavy rainfall. The geological evidence was overwhelming that the Sphinx had been carved long before this climate change. Its minimum age wasn't 4,500 years, but at least 7,000 years, and most likely, given the depth of erosion, 10 or even 12,000 years. It was contemporary with the age Edgar Cayce spoke of. It was a monument that survived the Great Flood. The scientific establishment's reaction was, well, pretty much what you'd expect. A storm of criticism descended on Schock and West. They were accused of pseudoscience, amateurism, and even sensationalism. Zahi Hawass publicly mocked their conclusions, declaring that these geologists understood nothing about archaeology. But honestly, none of the critics could actually refute the main argument, the geological facts. Instead of engaging in scientific discussion, they resorted to administrative resources. Robert Schock was banned from visiting the monument, and the topic of water erosion of the Sphinx became totally taboo. But it was too late. The genie was out of the bottle. In the early 1990s, as interest in this topic grew, the American Shore Foundation managed to obtain permission for non-invasive geophysical research around the Sphinx. A team led by geophysicist Thomas DeBecke arrived in Egypt. Their method was actually pretty simple. They placed geological sensors on the ground, then created small sound vibrations by hitting a metal plate with a heavy hammer. By analysing the timing and nature of the reflected sound waves, they could map underground densities, revealing any hidden voids or anomalies. It was kind of like an ultrasound scan of the planet. They worked for several weeks, methodically covering the area around the Sphinx with their instruments. And wow, the results of their work exceeded all expectations. At the location Cayce had predicted, between and beneath the front paws of the monument, the instruments recorded a major anomaly. This was clear, unambiguous evidence of an artificial cavity. Perfectly rectangular in shape, dimensions approximately 9 meters by 12 meters at a depth of about 8 meters below the bedrock. Nature doesn't create such things. This was a room, a hall of records, but that wasn't all. DeBecke's team discovered several other anomalies resembling narrow tunnels extending from this chamber in different directions, including toward the Great Pyramid. This wasn't just a hall, but an entire underground complex. It's worth noting they weren't the first. In 1987, a team from Japan's Waseda University, using advanced ground-penetrating radar, discovered voids beneath the Sphinx, including a cavity under the left paw and a tunnel leading to Khafre's pyramid. Their results were also ignored. Now, with DeBecke's results, the evidence was overwhelming. News of the discovery should have created a global sensation. Instead, it was buried. As soon as preliminary reports reached the office of Egyptian authorities, permission to continue work was immediately revoked. DeBecke's team was ordered to pack their equipment and leave the country. The official statement was that the data was inconclusive and likely resulted from natural cracks in the rock. But what natural crack could have a perfectly rectangular shape with perfect right angles? An indefinite ban was imposed on any further exploration in the area. The door that had been opened for a moment was closed again. But there's other evidence that official science prefers to ignore. Most notable is what's called the Inventory Stela. This artifact was found at Giza in the 19th century by Auguste Mariette in a small temple next to the Great Pyramid. Inscribed on the stela, is a text stating that Pharaoh Khufu, builder of the Great Pyramid, ordered the construction of this temple in honor of the goddess Isis. But what's most shocking about this text is the phrase stating that the Sphinx itself and the Great Pyramid already existed long before Khufu. The text explicitly states that Khufu